requested ex parte approval of the two contracts. For clarity, during this public hearing, I and others may refer to the Michigan Public Service Commission as either the Commission or the MPSC. My name is Teresa Staley, and I am an administrative law judge with the Michigan Office of Administrative Hearings and Rules. My role here tonight is to make sure that we are able to hear from as many people wishing to make comments this evening as we can. I'll also be providing some instruction to make that opportunity as easy as possible. Tonight's hearing is being held virtually via Microsoft Teams. Telephone relay service is available through the phone option. If you are participating via Microsoft Teams, you may turn on the captions by clicking on the More button at the top right of your Teams window, then clicking on Language and Speech from the drop-down menu. And finally, clicking on Turn on Live Captions, and that should get you what you need. The comments made tonight are being transcribed by our court reporter and will be included in the transcript that will be posted publicly in the case docket. Thank you to our court reporter, Mindy, for being here tonight. I will try to speak slowly tonight to make our court reporter's job a little easier. And I would encourage you all to do the same as you make comments so that she can accurately record all comments. Following a presentation by MPSC staff member Mike Byrne regarding the application, we will open the meeting for public comment. First, however, I would like to turn this over to the commissioners to share some opening statements, and I will start with Chair Scripps.
Thank you, Judge Staley. Hi, everyone. Good evening, and thanks so much for being here tonight. My name is Dan Scripps, and I'm the chair of the commission, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Michigan is at a crossroads. Last year, the legislature passed incentives designed to spur economic growth in the form of data center attraction and development. And if the news reports of the last 5 weeks are any indication, Michigan has certainly gotten the attention of data center developers. In a recent article published earlier this week, the publisher identified 11 possible data center sites across the Lower Peninsula and stated that there's no reason to believe there's not more to come. In the areas where data centers developers are proposing to build, community members often have questions and concerns about the development, in part worried about the impact such development will have on their community. The proposed data center development in Saline Township is no different. And the contracts under which DTE is proposing to serve this customer have generated a lot of public interest, to put it mildly. In fact, we've seen nearly 5,000 comments submitted on this application since it was filed on October 31st, and we've seen a number of news articles focusing on this proposed data center and related DTE application. We know that some people are excited about the potential opportunities this and other data centers could provide. Commenters in the docket have talked about anticipated job creation, economic development opportunities, and expanded tax base to support schools, community infrastructure, and other public services. But we also know that folks in Saline Township and across the state are concerned about data center development. Melody shared in her comment on the docket, comment number 3979, shared her concerns for the health and safety of people and wildlife living near the proposed data center. Erica, comment number 3935, shared that she is concerned about the potential for waste and abuse of natural resources, increased power demand and related costs, and negative health impacts. Ashley, comment 4012, Emma 3971, Candace 3915, and others shared concerns over the potential for increased bills, impacts on water supply, and stress to the electric grid. I want to acknowledge the very real frustration, concern, and even anger we've heard and read about over the last few weeks. These concerns are real, and we hear them. And as we review the contracts before us for DTE to provide electricity to the proposed data center, we're closely reviewing some of these same issues around power demand, stress to the grid, costs, and the impact on customer bills. At the same time, however, a number of the other concerns raised are outside the authority of the Commission. We're not reviewing whether data centers or this specific data center are good or bad. We're looking at the range of potential benefits and threats of AI. Those are very real questions, but they're outside the jurisdiction of the Commission. Rather, we often refer to the Commission as a creature of statute. Our authority in this case, and indeed in all cases, is granted and defined by Michigan law and court cases interpreting that law. That means that anything we do, any order we issue or other action we take must be rooted in that authority. For data centers, Michigan law gives us authority related to the rates data centers pay for electric or natural gas service and the terms and conditions of that electric and natural gas service. That includes ensuring meaningful guardrails are in place to ensure that there is sufficient power to serve both this customer and all of DTE's other customers, and to ensure this customer pays for its full costs. For other issues, including siting approvals, construction issues, and air and water permits, those are reviewed by other parts of state and local government. The staff presentation we will hear soon will touch on some of these issues and other public comment opportunities related to concerns outside of the Commission's jurisdiction, and I'd encourage you to check out those opportunities as well. So again, thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us tonight. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Commissioner Paratek?
Thank you, Chair Scripps. Issues of affordability, reliability, and resource adequacy, that is ensuring people can pay their bills, ensuring that folks have reliable power and that their service isn't going out all the time, and that we have enough generating resources to meet the energy needs of our residents, are issues that are all incredibly important to me and to my fellow commissioners. And we know these issues are implicated whenever a utility is looking to bring on any new large load customer, regardless of whether it's a data center or any other large energy user. These issues aren't just important to us, they're important to people across Michigan. In comments filed in the docket, Susan, comment number 4009, Joseph, number 3985, Karen, number 3966, and Ken, number 3948, and as well as many others, shared concerns that the power demand of the proposed data center will increase the need for new fossil fuel sources and urged that any approvals align with Michigan's clean energy standard while protecting ratepayers. Vicky, comment number 3944, urged protection of ratepayers, and several folks, including Monica, 2767, Michaela, 2852, Josh, 3436, and Carl, 2140, urged us to look at other states as cautionary tales of the impact of data center development on rates and power supply. Especially with the sales and use tax exemption passed by Michigan's legislature last year that incentivizes new data center development here in Michigan, we need to be really thoughtful about how we ensure that we protect residents on the issues of affordability, reliability, and resource adequacy. And we know that there are right ways and wrong ways of doing this that we have seen play out across the country. Here in Michigan, we're doing things differently. We're learning from the experiences of those states and actively working to ensure Michigan gets better results. Just last month, the Commission approved a large customer tariff for consumers' energy that includes a number of first-in-the-country customer protections designed to protect against the bad outcomes that we've seen in other places. Here in Michigan, for that tariff, we're requiring a minimum contract term of 15 years, a minimum billing demand of 80%, which means that the customer must pay for at least 80% of their contracted energy payments, even if they don't use it. An early termination penalty equal to the minimum billing demand over the entire remaining contract term, robust collateral requirements to protect against stranded assets, and among other protections. If you have questions about what we did in the consumer's tariff, I would encourage you to check out the issue brief available on our website. As we evaluate the energy contracts that DTE has submitted to the Commission for approval, my fellow commissioners and I are looking to ensure that the protections envisioned by the contract are strong enough to ensure that Michigan's customers don't foot the bill for any costs incurred by data centers. Several commenters have shared the importance of making sure that these protections are robust and have expressed support for the provisions included in the contracts that the commenters believe will ensure that, in fact, no costs are passed on to other customers. And our focus isn't just on avoiding negative impacts. We're also asking questions about what Michiganders stand to gain from this contract under our review. As detailed by the staff presentation, the contract before us includes a data center customer paying for the development and operation of 1.4 gigawatts of battery storage. That storage wouldn't be their private resource. It would be located on the grid and enable the grid to function and operate more efficiently. Your comments tonight, as we're considering these issues, will be critical to helping us think about the things that we need to keep in mind as we look at these issues. While we understand from reviewing your comments that your concerns are wide-reaching, I hope many of you will use this opportunity to share your thoughts on the aspects of this project that we, this commission, have power over. As Chair Scripps outlined, our job in this docket is to review the energy contracts between the utility and the customer. In this case, those contracts outline a plan for how the utility will serve the data center customer's load, financial security that the data center will be required to post, as well as other matters that our COO Mike Byrne will outline in his staff presentation. We are grateful for this opportunity to listen to your thoughts and concerns related to these contracts. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Commissioner Paratek. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shaquilla Myers, the third commissioner at the MPSC, and I'm so appreciative that you would take time out of your schedules to join this virtual hearing tonight. Several commenters have shared that they are worried about the long-term impacts of data centers on the local community. Jackie, commenter 3958, shared concerns about the impacts such as development, shared concerns about the impact such development could have on small communities. Miriam, comment number 3939, is worried that the community is absorbing all the risk related to this development. Stephanie, 3945, is concerned that AI and related development may be nothing more than a bubble and fears that communities will be left with, among other things, empty structures and destroyed lands. Many commenters have shared concerns over the tactics used by the developer. Aaron 3778, Jackie 3958, and Jeff 3833 in the local community, which give rise to concerns over the type of corporate citizen that is joining the community. We've also heard from commenters who have shared their support of this application due to the potential to create affordability benefits for existing customers. As the state looks at the opportunity that new data centers can bring, we at the Commission know that there are some real challenges. And as Commissioner Paratek shared, ensuring that we get it right is really important. Getting it right is important for affordability. Getting it right is important for reliability. Getting it right is important for resource adequacy. And there are a number of places and ways where we will look at these issues, whether it's evaluating utility long-term plans, annual capacity demonstration filings, proposed tariffs that will govern all large load customers of a specific utility, or contracts that will govern service for one customer. Getting it right in each of these areas is incredibly important, not only for our state, but for the communities where these data centers locate. As Michigan transitions to a cleaner energy future with more renewable energy, while at the same time looking to expand and grow our economic development opportunities, in some instances with businesses that will need access to significant amounts of energy, it's important to ensure that we're putting the right customer protections, long-term planning, and oversight in place to protect our residents, utility customers, energy grid, and future economic opportunity. Comments that have been shared in the docket and those that will be shared tonight are important to ensuring that we understand the issues that you look at and say, we need to get this issue right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring enough to be here. And I look forward to hearing from you tonight. I'm going to turn it back over to ALJ Stagley.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair Scripps, Commissioner Paratek, and Commissioner Myers. Now I'm going to turn things over to Mike Byrne, who will provide an overview of the proposed contracts. Mr. Byrne.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Byrne, and I serve as the Chief Operating Officer here at the MPSC. Tonight, I'm going to share briefly about the application from DTE and discuss a bit about the Commission's authority and standards governing its review of the proposed contracts. On October 31st, DTE Electric filed an application with the Commission seeking approval of 2 special contracts with Green Chili Ventures, LLC, which plans to build and operate an AI data center in Saline Township. Special contracts that come before the Commission are often reviewed ex parte. That means that the utility comes before the Commission without other parties intervening, and MPSC's staff is involved in reviewing the case. Cases that impact the rates and the cost of service to other customers, like rate cases, are reviewed in a contested case process, which allows parties to intervene and become formal participants in the case. In this instance, DTE says that the proposed contracts between the utility and a single customer will not impact the rates or terms of service applicable to other customers, and has asked that the contracts be reviewed ex parte, that is, without a contested case hearing. Utilities have an obligation to serve both new and existing customers, subject to the customer's willingness to comply with terms and conditions approved by the Commission. Those terms and conditions include things like paying for service and providing access to utility-owned equipment. Terms and conditions of utility service are established either through rates and tariffs developed and approved in utility rate cases or through Commission approval of special contracts. Importantly, there are a number of laws that define how the utility is obligated to serve its customers. Michigan's laws around long-term planning, integrated resource plans, and annual capacity demonstrations are designed to ensure the utility has the generating resources necessary to serve its customers. And Commission rules and tariffs are structured to keep one rate class from subsidizing other rate classes. When we look at the utility's obligation to serve its customers and the Commission's authority related to that service, it's important to note that a utility can't refuse to provide service to a customer who wants service and is willing to comply with approved terms and conditions of service. And the Commission can't direct the utility not to provide service to such a customer. That means the utility can't decide whether or not to provide electricity to data centers. Utilities have a duty to provide safe, reliable electricity at reasonable rates to all of their customers, and it is the Commission's job to ensure that happens. In this particular case, the Commission's jurisdiction is over the contracts that spell out the terms and conditions of service that the utility will provide to the new customer. So DTE filed 2 special contracts with the Commission for approval. The first of these is a primary supply agreement. According to the agreement as filed with the Commission, the customer will take service under the existing D11 rate. This rate schedule was most recently approved in the last DTE Electric rate case and is available in DTE Electric's rate book. The D11 rate is available to any customer who contracts for a specific amount of energy above 50 kilowatts and who wants service at primary, subtransmission, or transmission voltage. Taking service under this tariff ensures that the customer will contribute to fixed system costs, transmission costs, and renewable energy costs in the same manner as other large customers taking service under the tariff. In addition to identifying an existing rate under which the customer would take service, the proposed contract includes specific terms intended to protect other DTE Electric customers. These terms include a minimum contract duration of 19 years, minimum billing demand, which means that regardless of how much energy is used by the customer will be required to pay for 80% of the contracted capacity at a minimum. So if the customer ends up using less energy than they anticipated, they are still locked in to pay for that minimum billing demand. Termination payment. If the customer ends operations earlier than expected, the customer will still be required to pay at least 10 years of the identified minimum charges. The contract also includes credit and collateral requirements. This is the part of the contract that requires the customer put up collateral as an assurance that the customer can't close up shop and leave DTE and DTE's customers with unpaid costs. The second proposed contract is an energy storage agreement. Under the terms of this proposed contract, the customer agrees to pay for 1.4 gigawatts of energy storage facilities over a 15-year period. These resources would be procured through a combination of DTE Electric entering into contracts with third-party providers of energy storage and by DTE Electric developing, installing, and operating battery storage facilities at various sites across their territory, all of which would be reviewed in future applications to the Commission. The amount of battery storage facilities to be installed equals the electricity demand of the data center customer to ensure that DTE will have enough resources on the grid to meet the added demand from the new customer. Under the terms of the proposed contract, which includes similar termination payment and credit and collateral requirements as the PSA, the customer funding the energy storage facilities would receive the full value of any market revenues provided by operating the energy storage asset in the wholesale market. At a high level, this all means that the contract would require the customer to pay for 1.4 gigawatts of new battery storage, which is enough new capacity to cover the demand of the new customer. While the battery storage would be paid for by the new customer, it would provide benefits to the grid as a whole. In submitting its application to the Commission, DTE Electric has requested ex parte consideration of the contracts. Ex parte consideration of applications can only be used when approval will not impact the rates of existing electricity customers and approval will not impact the cost of service for existing customers. Special contracts with customers are often reviewed ex parte, as the contracts apply only to a single customer and not to other customers. In order to review the contracts through the ex parte process, the Commission would need to find that the rates and cost of service to other customers will not be impacted and may grant approval if the Commission finds the contracts to be reasonable and in the public interest. As the Chair shared in his comments, the Commission's authority is defined by law. In this instance, the Commission has authority related only to the rates and provision of utility service. A lot of folks have raised concerns about issues related to siting, but authority for those issues rests with the local government, which also oversees any construction permits that would be necessary for the project. Several commenters have also expressed concern about water use. Authority for water issues rests with the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, or EGLE. We have reached out to EGLE, and they have shared that wetlands and wastewater permits have been applied for, and their review process is underway. The public comment period for the wetlands permit is currently open, and the department will be hosting a public hearing on December 18th to take comments related to the permit application. Information is available at the links provided on the slide. I do just want to note that while the Commission has received many comments regarding water use concern, it is important that folks share these concerns directly with EGLE, as they are the ones that have jurisdiction over these issues. And with that, I want to again thank you so much for joining us tonight. And Judge Staley, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Mike. All right, we are now going to turn to public comments. And I'm going to say a few things about that before we get started. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and 1 per person. I will have a timer that can be seen by the participants at the top of the screen for those participating via Teams, and hopefully you can see that. If you can't see it, I will provide a warning either as your time is drawing near or when your time is up. At that time, I would kindly ask you to allow the next person in line to start their comments. You may make comments through Microsoft Teams or by calling into the hearing by phone. For individuals participating by Microsoft Teams, you may click on the raise hand button at any time to be queued up for comment. For individuals participating by phone, you may press *5 to be queued up for comment. Commenters on both Microsoft Teams and on the phone are added to the same speaker queue and will be called upon in the order they enter the speaker queue. Please do not lower your hand or press *5 again, or you will be removed from the queue and lose your place in line. To minimize disruptions, attendees will be muted until being called upon for public comment. For those participating on Microsoft Teams, when it is your turn to comment, please click on the mic button to unmute. You will also have the option to turn on your camera at that time. For those participating by phone, when it is your turn to speak, please press *6 to unmute. As a reminder, this public comment period is for commissioners to listen to comments and concerns, not to answer specific questions or engage in discussions. Similarly, I will not be answering questions or engaging in discussions aside from procedural aspects of accommodating comments in this public hearing. I will take comments in the order they are queued up, and I will identify you by name or by the last 4 numbers of your phone number, depending on the information in the queue when it is your turn. Finally, when providing comments, please indicate your name and where you live, if you're willing to share, so that we have that for our records. While I understand that some providing comments today are passionate about topics in this public hearing, I request that all of those commenting do so in a manner that maintains civility and demonstrates courtesy to and for all others who are interested in participating in these proceedings. And with that, it appears that our first commenter is Sana Navarrete.
Hi there. Good evening, all. I just wanted to say that the Chaldean American Chamber of Commerce is in support of DTE's request for approval. And I just wanted to make sure that that we let you guys know that in strength for the economy, workforce, and energy, we really see that this is going to be benefiting all of our customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker or our next commenter will be Michael Alamo. You may be on mute, Mr. Alamo.
Thank you so much. Apologies for the technical difficulty. Michael Alamo with the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, voicing our support for this application. We really appreciate the commission holding this hearing. We think it's a critical part of the transparency process. And really that was the first of three lenses we looked through in support of this project. Again, transparency, environmental protections, and then of course, anytime there is a rate filing in front of the commission, it is critical that we're looking through and vetting that application to ensure that the cost of service is following the statutory obligations under law, and that there's no implication or potential for rates to be passed on to other ratepayers. And so we believe that this proposal passes those tests and should be approved by the commission. We also feel like the ex parte filing is appropriate for those reasons around cost of service, et cetera. And so on behalf of the Michigan Chamber, we support this project. The Chamber represents thousands of employers from across every sector and county in the state, collectively employing over 1 million Michigan residents. Reliable, affordable, and clean energy is essential for these businesses to compete and grow in a global marketplace. After reviewing the proposed agreements, we believe they offer clear protections for existing customers and provide system-wide benefits, including grid monetization that merit prompt consideration and extend well beyond this project. Data centers have distinct and highly predictable load characteristics that strengthen the grid for all users. Their large, steady electricity consumption with the ability to ramp quickly up or down helps offset costs and will help improve grid flexibility and reliability. Under the agreement's terms, Green Chili's Ventures LLC commits to maintaining at least 80% of its contracted demand each billing period and to fully covering all costs associated with the necessary distribution and transmission upgrades and battery storage build-out. Central to our support of this project is that these terms create critical assurances that the financial obligations associated with serving this load are borne by the particular customer, not subsidized by other ratepayers. Importantly, DTE estimates the project could...
Mr. Elmo, I hate to interrupt, but your 3 minutes are up and we have a lot of people here to comment. So I thank you for your comments, and I'm going to move to the next person, which is Nicole Bibber. You may be muted.
Yeah, good evening. My name's Nicole Kiwe Biber. I'm a tribal citizen of the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa. I'm pretty accustomed to there being a limitation of the topics for consideration. In this case, we're looking at the request, the ex parte request to expedite approval and basically go around fulsome public input and any opportunity we'd have to influence outcomes. Thinking about what's outside the jurisdiction of the MPSC, but it's going to be a whole lot of other entities where it's outside their jurisdiction, probably to think about something like the lack of AI regulation, this false narrative that we somehow need it, and meanwhile it's driving people literally to psychosis. About those excited, it's all linked to money, this obvious financial self-interest. In terms of the MPSC, your authority is related to rates terms and conditions, and, you know, basically to confirm that there's meaningful guardrails. These meaningful guardrails, from what I've heard so far, are all on the assurances of DTE and the multi-billion-dollar corporations that are pushing AI and data centers on us. That does not, you know, reassure me. Protect ratepayers. The way to do that is by denying permissions at every step. We cannot assume that these massive industrial footprints are happening, no matter what people say. Time and again, that seems to be the situation we're put in. Oh, it's happening, so we'll just try and like make it as palatable as possible. About footing the bill, you know, there's a continued climate collapse that's going to cost us all dearly. We're going to be paying for that. To put these massive energy footprints everywhere, it's going to exacerbate it. It's keeping combustible fossil fuels online, and we're the ones who pay for that. We don't have bespoke bunkers we can build. We don't have fantasies of flying to Mars. We need to stop pretending that raising green spaces, raising them down, and trusting profit-motive corporations to do anything besides grab the tax breaks and break their promises about jobs. Get it right. The way to do that is be realistic about the actual cost to ratepayers, to our water, to our mental health, and the long-term needs of the public you serve. Thank you much.
Thank you very much. The next commenter is Randall Whitaker.
Thank you. My name is Randall Whitaker, and I am the president of the Washtenaw County Skilled Building Trades Council. I'm here to speak in support of the application. As someone who works in and supports Michigan's skilled trades, a project like this data center is huge for workers. It's going to create thousands of union construction jobs, around 450 permanent on-site jobs, and thousands more jobs across the region while delivering millions in local revenue. This project is dramatically different from other data centers as it is designed to be LEED certified and does not utilize high water use evaporative cooling, but instead uses a closed loop air cooling system, ensuring minimal impact on local resources. This facility will use about the same amount of water as a typical office building. This project also helps keep high-tech work anchored here in Michigan. By investing in Michigan's strong skilled workforce and bringing advanced infrastructure to our area, this project helps keep high-tech work anchored locally rather than being outsourced. That means better opportunities for our workers, their families, and the next generation entering skilled trades or tech fields. I support this project because it represents one of the largest economic investments in Michigan's history and delivers significant benefits to Saline Township and the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next commenter is Christopher Slatt.
Hello, I'm speaking because I have some serious concerns about the renewable energy side of this and how it could affect rates. I'm a DTE customer, and in February, I installed rooftop solar panels at my house at my own expense. It's really amazing technology. I could talk for 3 minutes just about that, but my favorite aspect of it is I have an app where I can see what it's produced over the past year, or almost a year since February I got installed. I produced 5 megawatt hours and exported 1.8 megawatt hours back to the grid. Now, I thought I was helping. I thought I was cleaning up DTE's grid. This data center has a peak load of 1.4 gigawatts. So in 1 hour, it can use 280 times more than my solar panels produce in an entire year. So as a consumer of DTE and someone who invested in their rooftop solar program, I feel a little betrayed by this, and I think this could put a chilling effect on other people who are trying to get into the rooftop solar program. As you know, DTE has expectations for renewable energy, and so does the state. So did the federal government at one time. And they have basically said in their application, hey, don't worry about it. We have so many renewable energy credits, which I think the Public Service Commission should do a whole nother investigation into, because it is not really a solution to the climate problem. And they say, hey, we have so many credits that we could meet our goals by only bringing on maybe 443 megawatts of renewable energy by 2032. In other words, 30% of what this site uses in 1 hour. So, I think this is a very complicated topic. We have, 5,000 comments, as you said. We have 852 people in the meeting right now. This demands scrutiny, especially because these questions are going to come around again and again. Our environment deserves scrutiny. DTE customers deserve scrutiny. And I think that passing this with an ex parte approval is frankly insane. I think it deserves scrutiny, and take your time with this and at least give all of us citizens confidence that this is being done in a slow, deliberate, fair, and transparent process, because most of us do not feel that way right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next commenter will be Michael Jackson Jr., followed by Jane Finkbeiner. Michael Jackson Jr., it's your time to provide comment. You may be on mute. Okay. I am going to move on. I will.
This is Mike Jackson. Can you hear me?
Okay. Oh, yes, I can now. Thank you so much.
I am so sorry. I had technical difficulties, but my name is Mike Jackson. I'm a representative with the Carpenters Union, the MRCC, and I am speaking in support of Related Digital Saline project. I'd like to echo the other skilled trade representatives who know that this multi-billion-dollar infrastructure investment represents a historic opportunity for Michigan skilled trades, creating thousands of good-paying jobs and delivering millions in local revenue. These construction workers are all from the local trades in the area, with the trades not having any issues with providing the local manpower. The impact of this project with the skilled trades is exponentially positive, with not only the highest paid wages, but healthcare and retirement opportunities. And because of the state's 2024 data center law, none of the infrastructure costs fall on ratepayers. So we stand in support of approving DTE's request, and I thank everybody for their time today.
Thank you very much. Next commenter will be Jane Finkbeiner, followed by Gretchen Driscoll. And Ms. Finkbeiner, you may be on mute. Okay. I will move on. We will, I'll try to reserve Ms. Finkbeiner, but we will move on to Gretchen Driscoll, followed by Brian Smigelski. Gretchen Driscoll. Are you there, Ms. Driscoll? Okay, I will now move on to Brian Smigelski, followed by Josh Fraley. Mr. Smigelski.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Okay, great. My name is Brian Smigelski. I'm with the Sierra Club. I'm commenting to ask the Commission to deny Related Digital and DTE's request for ex parte approval of the single largest electrical load request in Michigan's history. Michiganders are being asked, and it remains to be seen if we will be forced to subsidize a gigawatt scale gamble for a speculative AI project that has never turned a profit via a secret deal behind closed doors. For a project of this unprecedented magnitude to be fast-tracked with heavily redacted contracts so that companies like Oracle and OpenAI can, in the words of DTE's own CEO when asked why the rush, said, compete against, so that they can compete against each other to capture that demand. A demand they don't even know will exist. This is beyond reckless, and it exposes us all to risks none of us asked for a future none of us have consented to. If the entire economic viability of this project hinges on the Commission's giving them a shortcut so they can maybe win a race against other speculative ventures, then what they are really admitting is that Oracle has not yet secured long-term demand for this data center. If their entire business case collapses under the timelines needed to holistically plan, engage with formal public scrutiny, and factor in risks, then its entire business model does not work in Michigan. If demand for the data center isn't secure enough to withstand a few months of critical scrutiny, then it's not secure enough for us to start building hundreds of millions in new grid infrastructure for it. Should be obvious. This demand and security logic behind the request for expedited approval is the very reason it must be denied. Approval would clearly be a betrayal of public interest. So there's this statewide resistance that's growing to these secretive deals, and it will continue to grow because no one in the public knows the details of the heavily redacted plans. No one knows exactly how DTE plans to generate the 1.4 gigawatts of electricity, nor the 7 gigawatts of new demand in its pipeline, or where the infrastructure would be built, what it would mean for our water ecosystems and climate, or how absorbing that scale of demand will strain the grid and drive up energy bills 1, 5, or 10 or further years down the road when the AI market hysteria has leveled out. No one knows if DTE's renewable build schedule will be able to keep up with this data center's needs or DTE's future plans. And no one knows if AI will ever be profitable enough to pay the billions in new construction and energy costs that could get pushed onto the rest of us. With all of these risks, it is reckless, genuinely dangerous to fast track this project or any future AI data center project behind redactions and corporate promises. This commission has a choice. Deny the ex parte and be heroes for the people, please, or fold to corporate interests and face the bipartisan fury of Michiganders uniting to protect their home and to put a halt to this recklessness. Thank you.
Thank you. The next commenter will be Josh Fraley, followed by Michelle Martinez. Mr. Fraley.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, my name is Josh Fraley. I live in Michigan, on Michigan Avenue in Saline Township, specifically the property immediately adjacent to the project site. Project is quite literally in my backyard. From my back porch, I watch the earth movers already working on the project site. Spoken many times at our local township meetings in support of the overall project. It's not because I like data centers, AI, or big tech companies, quite the opposite, actually. My original reaction was the same as most people. I fear noise, light pollution, the possibility of our home well running dry. However, after learning about the project details, my original fears were largely addressed. Of course, I wish it would stay as farmland, but the property was going to be sold and developed into some non-farm use. And I believe this project is actually the least objectionable path forward for that land. As to tonight's specific question of the fast-tracked process requested by DTE, I do have concerns with DTE's request. The public comments I've seen and heard, including tonight, all revolve around the cost associated with the project being transferred to the overall customer base of DTE, including myself. Both DTE and Related Digital state that no electric utility cost will be transferred to other customers. Simply, the customers will be protected and the data center project will pay its own way. Assuming that is true, it should be quite simple for that to be codified in ironclad legal language. I'm an engineer, not a lawyer, so the 148-page heavily redacted contract makes it difficult to understand the exact terms of that DTE is proposing and what safeguards will be in place for average citizens like me. My request tonight to this commission is simple. Whether or not the fast-tracked approval is granted, it is imperative that customers be protected. If those protections truly are already in place and the redactions in the contract are innocuous and not really important, then perhaps it is just a matter of distilling that information down so that it can be more easily understood by regular customers. If those protections are not in place, I request that this commission represent and protect the citizens of Michigan and ensure that such language be locked in to any contract or other agreement that comes under the MPSC's jurisdiction. Thank you.
Thank you. The next commenter will be Michelle Martinez, followed by Dennis Aguirre. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Ms. Martinez.
Hi, my name is Michelle Martinez, and I'm an employee of the University of Michigan and a resident of Detroit, Michigan. I'm calling as a Detroiter who's concerned for my neighbors, my friends and family who struggle to pay DTE bills. All over the city, I can see people really struggling financially. I know that DTE Energy shuts off over 250 homes every year because of non-payment, and in the inflation economy, that has the risk of growing exponentially. DTE in its filings is not being upfront about what it's going to take to build out the power and to pay for the infrastructure and the transmission for this data center. The data center at 1.4 gigawatts amounts to 10% of the total peak load. And while that's clear in the statement, they're also telling their shareholders that it has a potential for a co-location of 3 to 4 additional gigawatts. And in the media saying 7 gigawatt load. Currently, there's no large load tariff for DTE Energy, and this could have the risk of being precedent setting. Where is the rate design? There's no evidence of a clear rate design for the $200 million of costs in transmission. They propose an 80% cost recovery. Anybody on this call knows that if they tried to pay 80% of their mortgage payment or 80% of their rent, that would not go through. The Attorney General noted in filing that the DTE application fails to demonstrate that its terminations fees would protect ratepayers. They propose 10-year minimum monthly charges, but the PSA governing services for approximately 19 years, leaving roughly 9 years of unprotected termination payment. Capital flight and the AI bubble would put all of us at risk, be on the hook for these payments. Low-income people all over Michigan, regardless of where data centers are sited, are at risk of holding the bag for billionaires and trillionaires. The equity issuances and DTE shareholder reports account for $3.5 billion just for their DC growth. This is an enormous risk to ratepayers. We are already struggling to pay DTE bills under a crumbling infrastructure. These are very real threats, not only to the cost of our bills, but to increased downstream pollution and to the displacement of water. Scope 3 assessments and Scope 2 assessments would simply assure only that increased energy is needed and that water consumption would happen at the point source pollution site of power generation. Not only this, but having an ex parte reject the ex parte, reject the ex parte.
Thank you. The next commenter is Dennis Aguirre and followed by Chris Morgan.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Aguirre. I'm the president of Ironworkers Local 25. We represent 2,500 active members, 64 out of the 68 counties in Lower Michigan, including Washtenaw. I speak in support of the approval of the DTE application with the $1.6 million in tax revenue through 2039, $8 million for the area school systems, $8 million for the fire department, $4 million for the farmland preservation trust, and then another $2 million for the community investment fund. I believe that with those benefits coming to the residents and the communities in Saline, along with the union jobs that this will create, it's too big an investment not to move forward with. I understand that uncertainty scares people, but we have to be honest with ourselves. AI is the future, and we've been hearing it for the last decade of how to keep and attract people to Michigan, keep our talent for tech and labor in the state of Michigan. And with AI being the future, if we do not evolve and adapt and grasp it, we will be left behind. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next commenter is Chris Morgan, followed by someone on the telephone with the last four numbers of 6851. But I'll turn it over to Chris Morgan.
Hi, it's Chris. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Chris Morgan. I live at 6090 Bethel Church Road in Saline, Michigan, about 7 miles from the Saline Data Center. I was married at St. Paul's United Church of Christ, downtown Saline. I moved to Saline in 1999, and all three of my children attended Saline High School. In addition, I'm a group vice president with Wallbridge, the company that will oversee the construction of the data center project here in Saline. I want to talk to you about two things. First and foremost, Wallbridge's commitment to build the project responsibly. And secondly, about the positive impact of this project on the Michigan construction industry. First to Wallbridge, who are we? We're a 106-year-old Michigan company. We are currently building data centers elsewhere in Indiana, Ohio, North Carolina, Virginia, and Texas. We know how to execute these projects and do them right. We plan for the Saline project to be one of the best yet. We've incorporated best practices from these other projects into the Saline project's logistic plan to minimize the impact to local residents, local traffic, the local environment, and the Saline River. You don't just have our company's commitment, you have my personal commitment as a Saline resident. This project will be constructed responsibly. As for the positive impact to the Michigan construction industry, as I mentioned, we're building data centers in other states. Both Wallbridge's people and the union trades, men and women, are having to travel away from home to work on these projects in these other states. Construction people have to go where the jobs are. This project will be built with union craft labor, approximately 2,500 workers on site at peak. These will be blue collar jobs, all paying good wages, benefits, and pensions to these workers. These workers will spend their hard-earned dollars locally, regionally, and all in the state of Michigan. The project will also allow the opportunity to grow the salary and hourly ranks of the construction workforce in Michigan. Too often, younger people shy away from a career in construction because of job security or the travel requirements. This project will provide an incredible opportunity to attract and grow this critical Michigan industry. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. The next commenter is on the phone with the last four numbers of, oh, I just lost it. Okay, I think oh, they appear to have disappeared from the queue. Hold on just a second. All right, they appear to have withdrawn from the queue. If I find that's an error. Can you hear me? Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dan Mitten, and I'm the business manager of Labor's Local 499, a building trade union in the construction industry. It covers 9 counties in Michigan, including Washtenaw County, where our local union is headquartered. In this role, I oversee the day-to-day operation of the local union, which includes placing members on job sites, engaging with contractors, and ensuring our members have the training and skills needed to safely complete their jobs. In this capacity that I come before you tonight to urge you to approve DTE's request in the case UT 21990, dealing with the approval of special energy fulfillment contracts. As the business manager of a local trade union that represents hundreds of members in Washtenaw County, I can say confidently that the approval of these contracts, which would lead to the construction of the Stargate Data Center, would be substantial community benefit. This project will create thousands of good-paying jobs locally and across the country, specifically 2,500 union construction jobs, 450 jobs on site, and thousands of jobs across the region. Many of those jobs would be for members of labor's union who live in or near Saline Township. By investing in Michigan's skilled workforce and bringing advanced infrastructure to our area, this project keeps highly skilled trades workers anchored locally rather than being outsourced. That means better opportunities for our members, their families, and the next generations of tradesmen and women, supporting the ever-evolving world of industrial development. Additionally, this project would not increase energy costs for any ratepayers. The project will fully be funded and it will fully fund all utility cost impacts. When Michigan passed its most recent data center legislation, the state included clear language making sure that any infrastructure upgrade is needed for a data center cannot be pushed onto ratepayers. That means the project pays for the upgrades, not community members. In closing, this project is a responsible job creating community development that will bring additional tax revenue to Saline Township. From our perspective, the utilities and the developers have worked in good faith to engage community stakeholders to ensure that this project is the best version possible. Members of Labor's Local 499 are eager to get to work building on this project. Thank you for your time. Good evening.
Thank you. The next commenter will be Ron Smith, followed by Eric Hartsfield. Mr. Smith. You may be on mute. Okay, I will move on to Eric Hartsfield, followed by Tammy Bruneau. Mr. Hartsfield.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi. I'm here this evening to attempt to convey my concern for the ex parte approval of the DTE contracts. I feel incapable of explaining appropriately my concern to approving a contract for so much money that could have so much potential future costs that would leave us with stranded assets. As I've learned from listening to the case for Consumers Energy, and since this is the first of DTE's steps towards taking care of data center customers, I just feel like it's really important that we take the time to get it right. In my personal profession, I'm a pharmacist. I regularly work and staff in the emergency department. When people come in emergent situations, it's very important that we act quickly. However, in the effort to act quickly and save people's lives, that does not take away from the necessity for me to assess what medications they may have been on, check to see what is going on with their health, and make sure that we take the appropriate steps to take care of them. And in that regard, I am urging you to please make DTE's ex parte approval a contested case as requested by AG Dana Nessel and a number of other people, so that we can take the time to go through the contract, get the information out in the open, and look through to know what is truly there, as opposed to assuming that it's just a good faith contract between two parties. I know that having watched many videos on your YouTube channel, all three of you profess to be very interested in taking care of the public interest. You're worried about the future of stranded assets and making sure that we're protected. And so I believe the best circumstance for that would be to have this be a contested case. And as one of the Detroit natives might say, you only get one shot. Do not miss your chance. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to return to Ron Smith as the next commenter, and that will be followed by Tammy Bruneau. Mr.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, finally. Okay, thank you. Good evening, commissioners and others. My name is Ron Smith. I'm speaking on behalf of Macomb Defenders Rising, a grassroots, indivisible affiliated movement committed to protecting communities and advocating for policies that advance justice, equity, and environmental responsibility, which is why we're speaking out on this project that impacts all Michigan families. We appreciate the opportunity to comment on DTE's application for the proposed 1.4 gigawatt data center in Saline Township. This project is enormous, equivalent in electricity use to over 1 million homes, and will strain local water systems and increase pollution. Yet it provides very few long-term jobs after construction to justify that impact. DET uses the language of innovation, but this is a massive industrial load that will fundamentally change Michigan's energy demand. Under the state's 2023 Clean Energy Law, a jump in energy demand like this gives DTE a built-in loophole to delay the transition to clean energy, expand fossil fuel use, and build more gas infrastructure, all at the expense of Michigan families. We are already facing rising costs in food, housing, healthcare, and electricity. If this contract is approved without strong enforceable protections, DTE will likely shift the cost of powering this data center onto ratepayers. History shows that they have done exactly that with past infrastructure projects. Chair Scripps emphasizes protecting residential and business customers from bearing these costs, a priority we strongly support. But we need transparency and binding guarantees on cost allocation, infrastructure expansion, and emissions impact. Without them, this data center becomes a blank check for DTE, and Michigan families will pay the price. For these reasons, we urge the Commission to reject this contract outright. Our community should not subsidize a project that increases energy demand, weakens clean energy progress, and exposes families to long-term economic and environmental harm. Thank you for your time. On behalf of myself and Macomb Defenders Rising, thank you.
Thank you. The next person providing comment will be Tammy Bruno, followed by Audrey Beauriard. There we go. Oh, there we go.
Hello, are you there?
Hi,
Can you hear me?
yes, hi. Yes,
Hello.
I can hear
Sorry.
you. Go ahead.
All right, very good. Hi, my name is actually Tim Bruno, not Tammy.
Oh, okay.
I'm a
Sorry
resident
about
of
that.
Saline
Thank
Township.
you.
It's okay, that's all right. I'm a resident of Saline Township for 21 years. I lived in Saline City for about 5, and a resident of Washtenaw County, where Saline is located, my entire life. Our community and our state are under siege by corporate greed and political overreach from a billion-dollar company and a monopolizing utility company bullying a small rural township with limited resources. DTE should not be allowed to circumvent the MPSC process and public scrutiny. Over the years, they have proved to be unreliable and underhanded. This whole project began in July, and Related Digital wanted to start construction by October 1st. The entire project was fast-tracked, and now DTE wants to do the same. The citizens of Michigan deserve to understand the ramifications of this project. In 2023, on average, it took DTE longer in Michigan than any other state to restore power during an outage, around 12 hours. And we pay some of the highest rates, if not the highest rates in the country. DTE plans to prioritize power to these data centers over citizens. At a recent Saline Township meeting, I asked a DTE rep who was present who got priority in an outage. He said, 1, hospitals, fire and police, 2, senior citizen facilities, and he stopped short on number 3. When I asked if data centers were number 3, he refused to reply. At one of the open houses held by Related Digital, they told us that DTE reached out to them because they have excess power on the grid. Now DTE wants to build a $300 million substation to support the project. In a recent article by Bloomberg, AI data centers are sending wholesale electricity costs soaring, increases as much as 267% more than they did just 5 years ago. Who is paying for this? We need guarantees that we will not be paying for the infrastructure to support this data center. Could not be more obvious that they are trying to fast track this project because they are unable to meet the demands and want to have us citizens pay for the upgrades and line their pockets with money. DTE and Related Digital want this project to be treated as critical infrastructure, like a hospital, a school, or a road. While it's not critical, and there's no demonstrated need for a data center in Saline Township. Furthermore, the tax revenue and tax money for schools and the community will not go to the schools and community, particularly with all the tax incentives provided. It is a shell game created by Related Digital and DTE to make people feel like the project has some redeeming quality for the community. It is also in Related Digital's paperwork to discharge water containing glycol, a primary ingredient in antifreeze, into the Saline River.
Mr. Bruno,
Yep.
your time has expired. I appreciate your comments, but we need to move on to the next commenter, who will be Audrey Beauriard, followed by Julie Parrish. There you go. Audrey Beauregard.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Audrey Beauregard. I'm speaking on my own name and also on the behalf of Indivisible Detroit chapter, We the People Dissent. I want to register my strongest opposition to the project of a data center in Saline, Michigan. I think this project is an environmental, an energetic, and a social suicide. I will start with the social suicide. Some people here have been, I think, a little bit delusional when they were talking about the number of jobs that this data center would actually bring to Michigan. That is being very short-sighted. Maybe indeed construction workers would be employed by a few thousands for the time of the construction. But then what about the fact that AI actually is going to destroy the network of jobs in the United States? If I'm just looking at the expected numbers that AI is going to destroy, we're talking about 100 million jobs in the US. We're talking about 40% of registered nurses who are going to lose their jobs because of AI. 47% of truck drivers, 64% of accountants, 65% of teaching assistants, 89% of fast food workers, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So it's extremely short-sighted that this data center is going to fix a job employment situation in Michigan. Nothing could be less true and far from the truth. The second point is really the energetic suicide. But Mr. Bruno spoke eloquently about this point just before me, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. I would just like to add that fossil fuel energy that is powering some energy that we use with DTE is really something of the past, and we cannot rely on it. Building a data center of that size is just really not helpful with the need of cutting on our fossil fuel use. The last one is the environmental suicide. We know for sure, as experts, I've been sharing that for now several years, that we're going to face a shortage of fresh water in the next 5 years. I have obviously read Emma Aziza and other great water experts, international experts on water. They are all adamant. In 5 years, about 2 humans out of 5 won't have access to fresh water. And I think it's absolutely no wonder that AI companies, AI developers have their eyes on Michigan because of the enormous amount of fresh water that is available here. So they're preying on us, they're preying on Michigan. I think this is a terrible situation, and I cannot see, how we should move forward.
Ms. Beauregard, I'd like to thank you for your comments today.
Thank you so much.
We're going to move on to Julie Parrish, followed by Cody Gilbert. Julie Parrish.
Oh. Hello?
Hi, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm a resident of Saline, Michigan. I am very concerned looking at what's happening in Northern Virginia right now. I'm in direct opposition to what's going on here. The U.S. Department of Energy warned Northern Virginia customers that they would face more than 400 hours of power outages annually by 2030, compared to a current average of a couple of hours a year. The reason is the AI centers that have flooded the area. The high energy demand from data centers cause power quality issues, which can destroy consumers' electronics. The soaring cost of the upgrades needed to serve AI centers contribute to rising electrical bills. It's becoming a major political issue in Virginia. And also, regulators are only attempting to manage the situation. Once they're in, it becomes near impossible to try to govern these people. We are giving another natural resource over to the oligarchs, and this is not right. We will all pay the price as the plebeians of this state. That is what they are doing here. I relinquish my time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Cody Gilbert, followed by Gregory, looks like Tucha. Cody Gilbert.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
Okay, hi, yeah, my name's Cody Gilbert. I'm a resident in Cadillac, Michigan, and I'm here in support of my neighbors in Saline. And I'm here because I wanted to express that I oppose the data center project entirely in Saline. Data centers are concerning for people across Michigan. Other people before me have spoken about the climate concerns, and I'm not going to go over those again, but I would like to add that Michigan has a healthy climate plan in effect already, and in that climate plan, it's expressed that we should avoid taking actions that would make it more difficult for us to reach carbon neutrality. A project that uses thousands of gallons of water and tons of electricity, enough for thousands of homes, is not advancing that goal. What good is additional tax revenue when we're set with climate disasters in the future that are going to be taking lives across the globe and are already affecting our lives here in Michigan? There's been some discussion about created construction jobs. Those are temporary. AI is set to take millions of jobs, including my own. I'm in an industry where my job is at risk. Building these, we are literally speeding up our own job loss, and I cannot support that. Data centers are for the benefit of millionaires and billionaires creating AI and not the rest of us. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next will be Gregory Tucha, followed by the initials MW.
Hello, this is Greg Patua. I presume you can hear me.
Sure. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I mispronounced your name. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. You're a large crowd does that. I'm a Detroit resident along with my wife. We're DTE customers. Part of my fundamental concern about this is my own lack of trust in DTE as a for-profit electrical provider. And I am a former employee of Sacramento Municipal Utility District in California, so I've got a little bit of knowledge of electrical in the industry. But I have a broad range of concerns that have been expressed by many others regarding the full scope of impacts that this project might create. But I understand the limited scope of what you as commissioners are able to consider relative to this contract request. But I think the most fundamental issue that you should concern yourself with would be to reject it as an ex parte contract approval and to go with it as a contested project. And the reason is that data centers are a whole different animal. They're a brand new concept, and the scope and the breadth and the demand and the cost, I think, requires that nothing be fast-tracked in this instance at this early stage in this industry, and that all of the heavily redacted contracts, you can still protect what is purely proprietary information, but to better understand the full depth of the relationships here between DTE and their other partners, the legal partners in these contracts. And the most important part, I think, is to fully understand how these LLCs are structured in order, such as the fellow from Saline said, the lawyer. Their LLCs are structured for limited liability, meaning that there's no real guarantee that anyone's going to be able to belly up to the bar and pay their tab if these things go south. And so unless those ironclad guarantees are really structured into this kind of arrangement, I think all these assurances that there's going to be no cost to utility customers and that everyone's going to pay their tab at the end of the day, I just think that's illusory. So those are the extent of my comments. I hope you consider them seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to comments from the initials MW, followed by a phone number ending in 6541. So MW.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
All right. My name is Marilla Weiderquist, and I'm a resident of Saline, and I'm adamantly opposed to the ex parte approval. The Saline Township Board voted down the data center proposal, and Related Digital said that they wouldn't fight that and would go elsewhere, but instead turned around and sued the township, pressuring them to settle. I feel like having public input is the bare minimum that residents should get given this. It's clear that residents want to have a voice and that this is a way that DTE is trying to avoid accountability. We've had issues with DTE outages in the past, and I don't have confidence in their ability to protect ratepayers and provide the services that we already pay for. And I believe that we need full transparency throughout this process. Related Digital threatened to abandon the project if the ex parte isn't approved, which is clearly a scare tactic to pressure DTE into moving this forward at the expense of the voice of residents and ratepayers. I think the comments about the temporary construction job creation is moot if rate hikes force current residents from their homes due to it being unaffordable to live here. Those that are for the ex parte approval represent business interests and not the average resident, which has been made clear with the comments made tonight. I urge the commission to please reject the ex parte approval, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. I may have misspoken. I have next on the queue Claire, which will then be followed by the phone number ending in 6541. So Claire, you may be on mute.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for having this hearing, and my name is Claire Mader, and I'm a resident of Washtenaw County. And my first comment here, after listening to the explanation in the beginning of this hearing about how this ex parte is coming about and the reasons for it, my first thought is that this is not a normal request that is trying to follow normal protocol for approving an ex parte request. Treating a large gobbling entity as a common customer, same as myself paying my DTE bills, seems a bit ludicrous. And I know that there are large corporate and institutional customers of DTE as well, but it does seem like this is way, way outside the ballpark of what we've seen before. And considering that, it seems like the use of the ex parte method to push past the objections of the public is just a ruse, and I'm really appreciative of the last speaker who kind of outlined how that had happened, because I wasn't sure. So that brings me to a third comment here, and that is that in order for people like the average person, the average DTE customer, the average Washtenaw County resident, the average Michigan resident, to be able to understand what is going on here, you have to be able to attend several meetings and several hearings. One for the environmental, one for this, one for that. And it's really hard to understand what's happening and to try to be heard by the people who are making decisions on this. It seems to me that the data center, the whole idea of data centers in Michigan should be following a much bigger and broader educational portion before you ask citizens to accept this hook, line, and sinker, because it is going too fast. So that's a very good reason for not having an ex parte order go through. I urge you to contest it and not let that happen. And I also want to know, why does Laura not yet consider externalities, meaning the costs to the community, related to the impacts on the surrounding environment and public health when they are making decisions like this? Because those are rates and costs, not of the utility itself, but of what the public pays. You know, for a long time, we've heard about how corporations can externalize the costs to the public. And it seems like this is like a perfect example of it. And, you know, I did a simple search online asking about the health impacts of these major data centers. And it came up with page after page of you know, university reports, etc.
All right.
This is going
Ms.
too
Mader.
fast. This is just
Ms.
going
Mader.
too fast. Thank you.
I thank you for your comments. And we are going to move on to the phone number ending in 6541, followed by comments by Becca S. Oh, and that number just disappeared. Okay, we will move on to Becca S, followed by Mia Harnos. Becca S, you can proceed with comments. You may be on mute. You may be on mute. Okay, I think I need to move on to Mia Harnos, followed by Jared Richter. Is Mia Harnos available? You may be on mute.
Can you all hear me?
I can, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Mia Harnos, and thank you, Judge and Commissioners, for making this evening possible. I'm sure it's been a long day for all of you. I'm a resident of Wyandotte, Michigan, and a DTE customer. My comment and question is regarding any community benefit discussions that are or are not taking place as part of the Saline data center negotiations. In doing some reading about how data centers, i.e. the largest load consumers, might impact local communities, I've seen that these new data centers have loads equivalent of 1 to 2 million households like mine. If we are expected to welcome the equivalent of 2 million new members of our community and that associated grid load, is there an opportunity to seek investments from our incoming corporate citizens and new neighbors to make investments in our local, state, and federal programs that are currently helping and supporting low-income Americans, like the Home Weatherization Program or the Michigan Energy Assistance Program? These help to reduce energy burdens for low-income households, prevent service shutoffs, homelessness. They decrease the cost of energy for all. They improve housing quality. They make homes safer and improve air quality today and for future generations. I'd like to ask this group what might be a reasonable investment in those most vulnerable members of our community based on the revenues that will be generated by the Saline data center and others that will come behind it. When the data center is up and running for the contractually obligated 10 years, what would a good, reasonable corporate citizen investment look like? How would we go about putting that formula on paper and make it part of policy? In other states, I have seen a $500,000 initial investment that has been made for year one with no guarantees going forward. That's a drop in the bucket, and in my humble opinion, it is not nearly good enough. So might Michigan be the state that stands tall and insists that investments not be made just in year one, but for every year that these data centers are in operation? And should we be asking that they be based on revenues generated? And if so, now is the time while there is negotiation power and leverage. And as stated by one of the previous comments, we only get one shot. This opportunity will come once in our lifetime, and our children and our grandchildren are relying on us to look out for their best interest while we have the opportunity to do so. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you very much. I may have misspoken. I see next in the queue is, I apologize, is it Biahu Yu, followed by Becca S.
Through the chair, may I be heard?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi there. My name is Biwa. I'm a resident of the city of Detroit. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's been a long night. I've been on a lot of these community hearings before, so I just wanted to get engaged on the point about the MPSC's duties and responsibilities, which is to prevent a rate increase and have a just and fair rate for everybody that doesn't cost shift to or the cost of the electricity is cost shifted to the people. This project is built on the idea that they will store electricity in batteries in the off-peak hours, and if the previous residents of Saline are correct and they are already having power outages, it means that we don't have a guarantee that there's not an off-peak hour that they can capture enough. And if there is the case that, projected out based on your presentation that there's 11 more data centers that's possible in our state, and if some of them are in the Southeast region, it might be the fact that DTE will not be able to service enough. Just how many off-peak hours can there be to store it in battery? And is that enough tax benefit to build out our utility? And would the cost then be shifted to the people? I think everyone, I'm not going to fight AI. I'm not going to fight anyone. I'm just pointing out the fact that what your powers are is to, if nothing else, deny the ex parte and make this an open public hearing so that we all have the information. We all have the information to move forward in the best educated way that we can. Currently, it is. I Googled, I cannot find that much information about it. And as everyone says, the contract is blacked out left and right everywhere. And so I think it's fair, and it's with this new technology that everyone should have the right to have a public, transparent process to this. Thank you, and I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Next commenter is Becca S., followed by Jared Richter. All right, Becca S., you may be on mute. I'm going to try again. Okay, I'm going to move on to Jared Richter, followed by Sam. Jared Richter, you may be on mute.
Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm in the process of building a giant death laser inside of my backyard, and it's going to take a shitload of power. I just need you guys to be confident that I'm going to pay 80% of it if it all goes over and nobody actually wants a giant death laser inside of their own homes. And I'm going to structure it as a as an LLC. That way, if you guys need the money later on, I can just, collapse the entire thing. It's going to be fine. But in all seriousness, almost all these jobs that are going to be created are going to be temporary. It's an absurd thing to believe that this is a good thing, economically speaking, based off of the $7 billion that's going to be. It's going to make very little. Again, and as well as fast tracking it inside of this ex parte hearing, it's utterly insane in his gross negligence. Just the fact that you guys aren't doing your due diligence for a long-term identification of these structural issues that will exist inside of our infrastructure. It's insane. There are other states that have had massive issues as a result of the data centers going in, taking large amounts of power that have resulted inside of fundamental issues with the way that individuals are paying, and it's going to increase all of the amount of money that we're going to be paying for DTE. And the fact that you guys, think that this is good, and it's just absurd to me. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much. We are going to move on to Sam, followed by Bob Manilli. Things are getting out of order here for some reason, but Sam, are you available? Sam? Can you hear us? We can't hear you, but it looks like you're on. Okay, I am going to back up because things are appearing strangely in my queue. I'm going to go to Catherine Hallschulter, followed by, I'll try Becca S1 last time. Is Catherine available?
Actually, this is Ash. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't going to touch on jobs because that's, not what the MPSC is here for. But yeah, a couple other people have said it brilliantly. That these will result in a net job loss. So we're selling our soul for a quick buck here. So anyways, moving on from that, I'm a resident of Saline Township. The theme of this project from the outset has just been a lack of transparency. It has been predatory and rapacious. These companies, Related Digital, the way they've handled everything from the onset, has been just nothing short of predatory. And if history tells us anything, I feel like we can't just rush into a project of this magnitude blind. If we look back on how that's worked out over the past, it usually doesn't work that great. Collateral was mentioned in the beginning. If the rates can't be paid by green chili, and I think we should at least know what that collateral is if it's being offered in lieu of, if payments can't be made. I think the public needs to know that. Also, this is a 25% increase, if I understand correctly, on the current electrical output from DTE. So for them to say they can do that without any hiccups or without setting back the climate goals is laughable. And I'd like to point out this is a company that has been found multiple times in court to be in violation of the Michigan Clean Air Act. So I would just urge you to slow this down, to take our time, to give us some transparency on it. And what you do with this first big case is going to set a precedent for the rest of them. So on a job this size, a project this size, it's too big to be rushed. The people of Michigan deserve transparency, and things need to go through the proper channels. I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to move on to Maggie, is it Kirscher, followed by Sam.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Hey,
We can
sorry.
hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My name is Maggie Kirker. I'm a resident of Dexter, Michigan, right next door. I'm also representing my family and the small business that we do own in Dexter, which is dependent on water, with it being a fish farm. First of all, I'm just so surprised by how many people came on in support of this. And then I was incredibly unsurprised by how many of them sounded just like a script that they were reading off of. To pass this, ex parte would be a disservice, a disrespect, and a betrayal to the people of Michigan to let this corporation fast track this instead of going through normal MPSC due process is just, I can't even believe it's something that's being considered right now. Living in Dexter, I'm especially worried for the farmland surrounding my own home and the precedent that would be set with this. We're not even talking about any old data center. We're talking about what is set up to be the biggest AI data center in the United States. This is a very big deal, and it should not be rushed. DTE already has zero competition in the state of Michigan. And I'm just please urge you to not grant this ex parte, give it due diligence, listen to the people. You can't pretend that there's transparency when there's so much redacted out of the papers that we've been able to see. So Yes, thank you. That is my ask.
Thank you. We will move on to Sam, followed by Bob Manili. Sam, you may be on mute. Can you hear me, Sam? I see that you're not on mute, but I cannot hear you. Okay, I'm going to move on to Bob Manili, followed by Victoria Deal. Bob Manili.
Hi, this is actually Dustin Bird. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So, good evening, everyone. I'm a proud member of Local 252, and I'm speaking in support of this project. This is a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure, and I think it's going to represent an historic opportunity for Michigan skilled trades. And I'm hearing it could create 2,500 good-paying construction jobs, which will deliver millions in local revenue that will strengthen, I think, Saline Township. So with that, I think this project is a win for the workers and it's a win for Michigan. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, real quickly, I see the person who is queued up as Sam on the screen. Do you wish to still make comments? Okay, we cannot hear you. Can you hear me? Okay. Try to unmute again and see if that works. I can't hear you, so I apologize. I'll move on and we'll try again after a couple more commenters. How's that sound? I'm going to move on to Victoria Deal, followed by the initial J. Victoria Deal.
Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Great. My name is Victoria Deal. I am a long-term resident of Saline Township. I've been there since 2001. DTE Electric wants MPSC to expedite approval of their contracts to supply energy for this data center, despite the fact that the full details of DTE's deal with the data center are not publicly available. I have a problem with that. They also want to do so without a contested hearing, which Attorney General Dana Nessel is calling on the MPSC to have, and she has also stated that this is a rushed job. DTE has not been a good partner to Michiganders. They have an energy monopoly in the region. They have cut power on residents, raised prices, and tried to restrict energy infrastructure. This is yet another example of DTE failing to be a good neighbor and partner to Michigan residents, especially those in Saline, Ann Arbor, Ypsi, Dexter, Chelsea, and all other communities like Detroit that will be immediately affected by this data center. DTE claims there will be no energy price increases, but the reality is that energy prices in Michigan will go up the same way that they have in every other state that has a data center. For example, Illinois, with 244 data centers, has seen a 16% increase in electricity costs. And that's up more than $200 just since last year. The entire state of Michigan will be forced to bear the rising energy costs that will result from this data center, while DTE profits from their contracts. I am asking you to stand by your mission and make sure the public has safe, reliable, and accessible energy at prices that we can afford. I'm asking that you reject DTE's contracts to provide energy for this data center. Additionally, they state that data centers will create many jobs in the city and 450 directly at the data center. In reality, the Stargate data center in Abilene, Texas, which consumes more energy, will only need 100 people to keep it running. Additionally, as a nurse, public health is important to me. They claim that this data center won't have negative health effects. The XAI data center in Memphis releases tons of nitrous oxide into the area, which causes asthma, COPD, and bronchitis. The public health is important, and I urge you to not allow this to be a secret deal. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to move on to the initial J, followed by Aaron Russ. So the person who is here under the initial J.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
Hi, so I'm from Ypsilanti Township, where we have our own data center crisis underway. DTE is also a titanic pushing force in that project, pushing it on us. And they're telling us they will have to build another substation for the Lano data center to have power. That, I believe, is a separate one to the one you're discussing here. I haven't asked any of the other communities fighting data center battles if DTE is building new substations, new gridding, new infrastructure for them. But since DTE is so big in so many other scenarios, they should be considered a monopoly. I'd be willing to bet the answer is they're making a lot of these. And the idea that that is not going to have an impact, installing so much, constructing so much, with no technical information on how or why or where will not affect our power, I think it's incredibly naive to assume that. This project needs to be looked at with the lens that it is not being made in a vacuum. This is simply one of more than potentially a dozen additions to the power grid, most of which have little to no explanations of how they'll be put into place or what effect they'll have on the grid, the local environment, or the fellow consumers and power users of that grid. And we have no way to prove if our rates will go up with the construction because DTE already regularly raises our rates with no explanation or transparency. What do we have except their word, which is rarely kept and easily broken, when they already refuse transparency in their rates and asset management? We have no proof that they're going to do as they say and no way to hold them accountable if they don't. All the reasons that you gave in the beginning of this meeting about the concerns that you are not allowed to address or that are outside your purview are all the reasons why it deserves full public hearings, input, transparency, and not a fast-track deal or secret redacted contracts that we aren't allowed to look at or understand. Sorry, I turned the page. You can't divorce the assets and the areas that you control from the other issues that a data center of this size brings up by saying that you only look at the economic impact, when the economic impact that this will have is not being included in things like extra healthcare costs from COPD or asthma or bronchitis brought on by this thing, or rising rates, or the fact that this is not a business that is just like a grocery store where you put it in, you get some construction jobs, and then it just does its own thing. This is something that will have a constant impact on the community. And I think if you're not considering what the financial impacts that it has after it is built on the people around it, whether that's from worsening the environment or from taking jobs away, then you're not doing a service. I would like to have you give us your full
I'd like to
consideration.
thank you.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to thank you for your comments. And we need to move on. We will move on to Aaron Russ, followed by Rima Mohammed. Aaron Russ. You may be muted, Aaron. Okay. I'm going to move on to Rima Mohammed, followed by Jane Finkbeiner. Rima Mohammed. And you may be on mute as well. I did see Rima Mohammed in the comments. Hi. Okay, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so sorry, I was waiting on for a long time, so I'm in a quiet space now. But I am Rima Mohammed. I am a resident of Washtenaw County, close to Saline Township as well. I'm also a trustee of the Ann Arbor Public School Board. And I'm speaking as a concerned Washtenaw County resident, and as I said, a resident close to Saline Township who will also be impacted. I urge you to reject the proposed data center, or at a minimum demand a full transparent impact study before any approval. Recent data show that US data centers consume roughly 170 to 180 terawatts per hour of electricity in 2023, and that is about 4 to 4.4% of all US electricity usage. It is very important to also know, and I'm not going to repeat a lot of the comments that was said already, but, you know, it's going to impact our waters, it is going to impact our infrastructure, it is going to raise costs and burden to all our local, portable water systems, and for a minimum, long-term local jobs and community benefit. So our rural township and county should not bear the environmental and infrastructural costs to that distant companies can profit. I strongly ask the board to prioritize community welfare over outside corporate interest and to deny this application unless it can be proven beyond reasonable doubt that it won't degrade our water supply, electricity, reliability, and the way of life. I appreciate this opportunity to talk, and I appreciate and thank you for this.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I need to do a quick time check-in here. It is 8:15, and this hearing is actually scheduled to end at 8:30, but we still have quite a number of folks in the speaker queue, and I will acknowledge that there's been some glitchiness to that, so we're doing the best we can to get to everyone. We will plan to continue taking comments until 9 o'clock. I may stop just shy of 9 o'clock just to make sure, but we're going to try to get everyone, as many people as we can in. I'm thinking at this stage, we're probably only going to be able to get about 15 more commenters in, depending on whether people take the full 3 minutes or not. And at the conclusion of the hearing, I'll share some more instructions on submitting written comments for anyone who was unable to comment but would still like to provide comment. So with that, we're kind of in the home stretch here, and I am going to start with Rachel Brown, followed by Aaron Russ. So if Rachel Brown is available. You may be on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can go ahead. I can
Great.
go ahead.
So I wanted to speak. I echo a lot of the points that others have made, including the member from the Sierra Club and Rima Mohammed. I think that if DTE and these companies are doing something honest, then we don't need to have this all these redacted and closed and fast-tracked processes, and that we really need to take our time with these things. I don't believe that we have a lot of recourse once everything's completed to go back and fix the harms that they might be causing. So, I think it's naive to think that, or I think that it's very short-sighted to think that, getting this money, injected into our communities is worth the potential harm if they're trying to fast-track through everything. And I think that we really need to think about that. I also was hoping to maybe even get some people from communities that have already been affected, including I've seen the story of Beverly and Jeff Morris in Georgia, where the Meta data center went in, which is a very large one as well. And now their quality of life is completely destroyed. So I'm a Washtenaw County resident, and I'm also a medical provider. And I just think that this is really something that we need to take our time with. I'm not saying that we need to completely reject these things if they're done right, but if somebody's trying to race through the process with closed doors, that there's probably a reason, and that we're just going to be sacrificed in the process. So we really need to think about that. And I know a lot of people, I'm proud to hear a lot of people echoing that same concern, and I hope that you guys listen.
Thank you.
And that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to Aaron Russ, followed by Jane Finkbeiner. Is Aaron Russ available? You may be on mute. Okay, I'm going to move on to Jane Finkbeiner. You may be on mute. Okay, I am going to move on next to Jennifer Schlicht, followed by a phone number ending in 3380. Is Jennifer Schlicht available? You may be on mute. Jennifer, can you hear me?
I can now. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, we can hear you, so go ahead.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Good
Yep.
evening. My name is Jennifer Schlitt. I work for Clean Water Action, and I'm a resident of Ypsilanti. Thanks for your time and your patience tonight. I do wish everyone could be heard. MPSC is supposed to protect the public interest, not make decisions in the dark for more corporate profit. I'm asking the Commission to reject the ex parte request by DTE and the dangerous precedent this could set across the state, including my own backyard. In 2024, DTE specifically lobbied for and won huge tax breaks for data centers. The influence that DTE as a monopoly utility has had on our political processes, irrevocably tied to the absurd amount of money they spend on our elected officials, has never been more apparent than with this issue in data centers in general. Data centers moving into Michigan, including this massive proposal, will drastically increase the baseload on our already strained and outdated grid. All for a few jobs, the majority of which are temporary anyway. DTE and big tech will profit until the AI bubble bursts anyway. DTE ratepayers, who already pay the highest rates for the worst reliability in the entire region, will experience more of the same. I lose power multiple times a year and pay more every year for this privilege. Michiganders will foot the bill from this data center one way or the other. These post agreements to ensure that ratepayers don't pay more due to data center development are not enforceable. Out of the purview of this commission, but there are real water, pollution, quality of life, and property value concerns that do deserve to be addressed as well. The public deserves and demands better than this fast-track decision. If a project cannot withstand public scrutiny, then quite simply, it should not go ahead. We need you, the members of MPSC, to do your job and protect Michigan ratepayers by ordering a full contested case process. The false sense of urgency that DTE is attempting to impose here is absurd. If this project would truly benefit the public, they should have nothing to hide and no reason to rush this through. And yet, here we all are. As you can see from the number of people in this room, the public is watching. This is not a decision to rush. It should be made with complete transparency and fully taking into account the wishes of the community that will feel the brunt of the impact. And if you do so with honesty and integrity, I truly believe that it would not be approved. Michigan deserves better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I am going, the next person in my queue now is John Conyers, and then I will follow with the number ending in 3380. Is John Conyers available? You may be on mute.
Yes, I am here.
Okay,
John Conyers.
go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'll be quick. A lot of this stuff has been said, but I prepared a comment ahead of this, so I just want to make sure I read it. Michigan holds 1/5 of the world's fresh water. Protecting the Great Lakes is our most important responsibility, and a 250-acre data center doesn't become low impact simply because it's labeled an air-cooled or LEED certified facility. A facility with a peak demand of 1.4 gigawatts will place enormous strain on an electric grid that already ranks among the least reliable in the country. 13% of DTE customers had 4 or more outages last year, and nearly half lost power for more than 8 hours. We cannot add one of the most energy-intensive facilities on Earth to a system that's already failing so many residents. The process itself only adds to the concern. These filings are so heavily redacted that the public has no real insight into what DTE has promised or what obligations fall on ratepayers. We're being asked to absorb the risk without being allowed to see the terms. Economically, this project creates very few permanent jobs while demanding subsidies, discounted power, and long-term public costs. That's not meaningful economic development. And from a climate standpoint, adding this level of new baseload demand without matching clean energy capacity makes our climate commitments impossible to meet. You cannot claim to protect the Great Lakes while locking us into higher emissions and more fossil fuel generation. I want to acknowledge something respectfully. We've heard from chambers of commerce, we've heard from the building trades and the builders on this project, and of course they support it. They benefit financially, and I have no doubt they will do excellent work. But there are other ways to grow our economy than fastening ourselves to massive data centers or AI projects we do not fully understand, especially one being fast-tracked with so little transparency. Investing in data centers at this scale before we know what we need to know about the AI technology it supports or even this specific project is short-sighted. We have to stop making decisions that look out only for our immediate interests and then leave the consequence as a problem for our children to solve, something we assume they'll figure out. Our responsibility is to leave them with fewer problems to solve, not more. Finally, this project strains an unreliable grid, threatens our most important resource, offers almost no economic return, and is being advanced with almost no transparency. Until the redactions are lifted and the full commitments are public, this project should not move forward without public contested hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to acknowledge that my queue is a little glitchy tonight. So the next person in my queue right now is Layla Mohammed. Is Layla available?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
Cool. Okay, so my name is Layal, and I'm part of the Michiganders Against Data Centers organization. And I just wanted to state that DTE has not been a good partner to Michiganders. They have an energy monopoly in the region, and they have cut power on residents, raised prices, and tried to restrict energy infrastructure. This is yet another example of DTE failing to be a good partner to Michigan residents, especially those in Saline, Ann Arbor, Ypsi, Dexter, Chelsea, and all other communities that will be immediately affected by this data center. DTE claims there will be no energy price increases, but the reality is that energy prices in Michigan will go up the same way they have in every other state that has a data center. For example, Illinois has 244 data centers and has seen a 15.8% increase in year-over-year electricity costs. Just last year, DTE proposed a $456 million rate hike. They had people from several businesses working with DTE give public comment and support on that rate hike. Journalists from Planet Detroit found out that at least 4 of those comments were written by a DTE spokesperson. They ghostwrite these comments to make it seem like there was support for this hike. This is just one example of the lengths DTE will go to misinform Michiganders. Not only will this raise energy costs, the massive energy consumption of the data centers contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. They use tons of water for cooling and generating electronic waste. Data centers consume approximately 450,000 gallons of water per day. In addition, the XAI data center that is operating out of Memphis currently is emitting 1,000 to 2,000 tons of nitrogen oxide and formaldehyde. It has become the biggest polluter in the area, and the residents have complained that their neighborhoods smell like gas leaks. The NAACP has filed a lawsuit against XAI, citing environmental injustice and threatening health risks like increased asthma and cancer risk for residents near the data center. Additionally, this data center will displace the local flora and fauna. Constant low-frequency noise can cause chronic stress in wildlife, abandoning habitats and disrupting their natural behaviors, altering migration patterns, and diverting water resources used by wildlife, causing stressful disturbances to rescue animals in sanctuaries such as Barn Sanctuary and Sasha that are local to the area. I am asking you to stand by your mission and make sure that the public has safe, reliable, and accessible energy at prices we can afford. Reject DTE's contract to provide energy for this data center. We have a responsibility to each other and to future generations that will come after us. Supporting this data center threatens humans and the exact ecosystem that we claim to care about. This will contribute to long-term ecological damage that we will not be able to reverse. You have the power to choose a path that goes with sustainability, the well-being of the public, and to true environmental stewardship. Stand with Michigan, its residents, the local flora and fauna, and reject DTE's contract. Michigan deserves better. We all do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, last call for Aaron Russ. Okay, last call for Jane Finkbeiner. Okay, I am going to move on to a phone number ending in 3380. And I will follow that with Steve H. Okay, 3380 dropped out. Is Steve H. followed by Ankit Banerjee? Is Steve H. available?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. Oh. Now we can't hear you. I think that was Ankit's, but I'm not sure. Ben Jerry. Okay, I'm going to move on to Daniel Wood, and we will try to get back to the last comment. Oh, Steve, is this Steve H?
Yep, that's me. Hi.
All right.
Sorry.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Steve Homan. My thoughts against ex parte approval begin with water and electricity, but ultimately end with dollars and cents. I wonder who's going to pay in the event that my well runs dry due to excessive water consumption at the data center. And conversely, who's going to pay in the event the data center goes bankrupt after 5 years, yet there's a 19-year contract that will remain unfulfilled. Coupled with that, there are 2 other data centers within 10 miles of my home that are on the books that are being looked at, one at the Toyota Technical Center and one right behind the former Ford plant in Milan. So it's a huge burden on our natural resources, and I'm not real sure that DTE is prepared for what's coming at them. And we, the people, are going to pay that bill. And I don't agree with this rapid approval. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. I will move on to Ankit Banerjee.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for your time. I just wanted to make a comment. I'm a resident of Saline in York Township. I'm an electrical engineer by qualification. I am very concerned about this 1 gigawatt or over 1 gigawatt load that DTE is trying to use and service this data center in my area. To put this into perspective, 1 gigawatt load is ginormous. It can power up to 700, 800,000 homes in Michigan. The city of Ann Arbor, according to its own renewable energy documentation from 2024, roughly by napkin math, consumes about 450 megawatts per year. This is roughly half. And Ann Arbor is a city that has, over 120,000 people. It has one of the largest universities in the country. It has businesses like Google there. So it's an enormous amount of power, just so everyone understands. This is not a routine customer that's being added on. It's not you, me, or anyone, just coming in with a small business. It is a system-defining load on a scale of a major power plant. It is a huge load. There's a lot of consequences of a load of this scale in Michigan's grid. There's grid stability issues. There's obviously rate impacts that a lot of others have pointed out. And there's also local reliability. A load of this magnitude stresses nodes and increases voltage regulation or voltage, fluctuations and regulation events. It reduces hosting capacity for other power usage like EV chargers and all the other green energy projects that we're pursuing. There's also issues like harmonic distortion that's going to come in. There's going to be low power factor issues. There's a lot of technical stuff that should be reviewed by this commission and in DTE's detailed document that we don't have and where everything is redacted. On top of that, there's information that we should be concerned about. for not only just the cost and who bears them, but also how this affects residents of Michigan. Like generation capacity, DTE will need additional generation and long-term capacity. How does that come? Where does those costs go? Where does the cost of the transmission lines and the upgrades that they have to do go? A load this large is going to need major substations and new voltage lines. All of this costs hundreds of millions of dollars. And then, of course, grid reliability, like a single spike or outage will stress nearby businesses, it will stress out homes in the winter. Like this is a load that will greatly affect people living in the area. And of course, like I mentioned, rate pressure and cost is obviously going to be eventually passed on to us consumers. And that is obviously a negative for everyone. Last point I wanted to make is we had a lot of unions mention that construction jobs will be created, and this is good for, people living in the area. When I went to one of Saline Township's, hearings, it was made abundantly clear by the original landowner and their attorneys that this
Mr.
property will not
Vangieri?
remain farmland. So it's going to
Mr.
be
Banerjee,
yes.
your time has concluded. I appreciate your comments, but we have to move on to the next commenter. I will be moving on to Danielle Wood. My apologies, Danielle Wood, followed by Brian Madison. Danielle Wood.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Can, go ahead.
Okay, so there's been a few people who have spoke that are speaking as if the decision's already made, which is disappointing to hear, especially some of the people claiming to be from churches around the community, knowing that this is not just affecting us natural resource wise, but on a spiritual level. Our family farm is in Milan, a couple miles from the development site, and our street already has to water haul. This is not just going to affect our natural resources, but our children in the future. You've had folks speaking who are already getting paid to help build this project, and this is a conflict of interest, and we should be letting people who it will negatively impact speak. The people are saying no by the thousands, and this is spiritual warfare, and you cannot serve two masters. We are called to be stewards of the earth, and AI is not the future. Our children are, and clean water is a birthright. It's not up for negotiation, in my opinion. The people speaking in favor have chosen to see money and feed greed and do not speak in favor of the people or the land. AI has already been creating segregation, affecting jobs, and has been deemed as unsafe by its creators, and has also contributed to the suicide of many teens, and it has also been proven to give false and biased information, just like a majority of your paid speakers today. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Madison, followed by Chris Gilmer Hill. Is Brian Madison?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Brian Madison. I'm from Ann Arbor. I work as a software developer in the tech industry. I spend everyday work writing, reviewing, and debugging code, managing infrastructure, and thinking about ways to improve and grow the products I'm responsible for. I want to advocate against any new high-energy use data centers and the overbloated power infrastructure needed to support them in Michigan in the strongest possible terms. I understand the Commission only has jurisdiction over rates and agreements, but I want the Commission to closely consider with whom they are signing these agreements. The current AI boom is based on a series of false promises. According to reports, Sora 2, the video generator, costs OpenAI about $5 for every prompt it fulfills, while charging significantly less than that. ChatGPT is also in the negative. These are the two biggest AI products on the market from the biggest AI company, and they have not achieved profitability. They're being propped up artificially by a seemingly endless fire hose of investor money and self-dealing between companies who are dependent on the grift continuing and on whom the country's, indeed the world's economy is presently balancing. So what revenues can they promise Michigan reasonably? They have no real profits and are increasing their debt by the day. This looks worse than the dot-com boom and worse than the 2008 crisis. The products collectively called AI are emphatically not the future. It has not proven it can produce even a single profitable business. As usual, in a gold rush, those with the most interest in promoting it are the ones selling shovels and pickaxes, or in this case, electricity, construction, and construction materials. The fire hose of investor money for these projects will eventually run dry. When it does, these AI companies and their absurdly overinflated valuations will ultimately collapse, and they will cut infrastructure costs first. They will gladly throw their shell LLCs who own these data centers into bankruptcy to protect their core businesses. So any agreements signed with these LLCs mean less than nothing. I want the commissioners to consider how then will these companies make good on their agreements. The collateral they provide is likely to be in the form of stocks or other collateral, which, when the market busts, will become worthless along with a massive economic recession. The leaders of these companies will walk away free, laughing all the way to the bank. Ultimately, it will be the cities, townships, counties, and states foolish enough to have allowed these parasites to latch onto their power grids who will be left holding the bag. So what do we gain in the meantime by helping them over-provision infrastructure? What's the devil at the crossroads offering us for our soul and the future of our children and our communities? A promise of sharing the wealth, a few jobs, promises of local revenue are based on inflated estimates of both jobs created and money spent in this area. And these promises ring false. These tech feudalists don't even treat their own employees fairly. Why would they treat us better? They've not brought wealth and prosperity anywhere they've gone because parasites only take, they never give back. Most of the wealth generated through the data center will leave the state immediately. Meanwhile, our private for-profit power companies, such as DTE, who never have the interests of the citizens they serve at heart, will spend millions building out unnecessary polluting power infrastructure to feed these ever-hungry monstrosities. They promise that they won't charge us more. They've signed some paperwork saying only the data center will pay more. And so we are to believe that worse come to worse, DTE, benevolent overlords.
Mr. Mattson, your time is up. I thank you for your comments. I'm going to move on to Chris Gilmer Hill, and then I'll follow that by Kaja Erickson. Is Chris Gilmer Hill available?
Yeah, hello. Can you all hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for taking the time to hear everybody out. My name is Chris Gilmer Hill. I'm a rank and file union member in the Communication Workers of America, Local 34022. I'm also the policy manager at the Michigan Environmental Justice Coalition. And before that, I also worked as a software engineer, mostly using remote infrastructure housed in data centers. And I'm a lifelong Michigander here in Detroit. I'm here to tell the commission that now is the time to establish a clear precedent: no secret deals for data centers. One hearing on a heavily redacted contract is just not enough. We need a real contested case. We need the commission to uphold environmental justice in Michigan and protect the process in the face of corporate attacks on our shared values. We should not be taking DTE's word here that rates won't be impacted. This project is unprecedented in Michigan's history, and we can't rely on just the same D11 rate that's used by projects that, per the presentation earlier, are 20 times smaller. We need a contested case to ensure that these data centers are paying their fair share without leaving ratepayers to pay for new infrastructure that the rest of us don't need. Now, I know that it's not within the MPSC's purview to consider construction jobs, even though we know data centers in Michigan have a history of lying about job creation numbers. But it is your statutory role to consider how DTE and the data centers will pay for all of these significant costs that they incur, and the way that those costs will impact the electrical rates that Michigan workers will have to pay. The reason why folks are talking about there being so much money for jobs is because data centers are incredibly expensive. A lot of money has to go into building and running these data centers, and that money has to come from somewhere. We need you to protect us as ratepayers in Michigan because we know that the cost of those will have an impact. Precedent in Michigan and around the country proves that data centers rely on sweetheart electricity deals to pass costs off to ratepayers who never see a benefit. The MPSC, per statute, is our last line of defense against hidden subsidies that just help data centers. There's also a real risk that DTE will use this contract and the new demand that it brings in order to undermine our clean energy laws. DTE is already one of the biggest spenders in all of Michigan politics, and we know that they're actively supporting legal and legislative measures to weaken our clean and affordable energy protections here in Michigan. We shouldn't just take their word that this secret deal isn't just another way for them to accomplish that goal. Once again, the MPSC is our last line of defense against a secret deal that sells out our clean and affordable energy future. For these reasons, I'm in alignment with the Attorney General and the thousands of Michiganders who have already spoken out in support of a contested case and real scrutiny. We need the MPSC to stand up for Michigan and tell DTE that we won't have secret deals for data centers in our state. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to take Kaja Erickson, and then I will follow that with Sue Shrink. Is Kaja Erickson available?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Khadijah Erickson. I'm the Executive Director of the Mid-Michigan Tenant Resource Center. DTE attempted to secure an ex parte approval, cutting the public out entirely. Even now, the contract is so redacted that neither residents nor the Attorney General can evaluate the risks. The proposed data center would use between 1 and 5 million gallons of water per day. The company claims some of this water can be reused, but those plans have not been proven safe, have not been fully disclosed, and have not been subject to independent expert scrutiny. The burden of proof is on the applicant, and without a contested case hearing, the technical, health, and environmental risks cannot be evaluated. We simply do not know whether reuse is feasible, affordable, or safe. What we do know is that DTE cannot reliably meet current demand, and adding a hyperscale data center will raise rates and increase shutoffs for low-income families. I urge the Commission to reject the contract as written and to require a full contested case hearing so these claims can be tested, disclosed, and verified. Our drinking water is priceless and it is essential. Access to safe, clean, affordable water is a lifeline and a condition of freedom for all Michiganders. Beyond that, tenants across Michigan are already suffering under exploding energy costs. By approving this request, we will be fast-tracking more people into housing instability and homelessness. The risks proposed by blindly rushing to approve a data center shrouded in secrecy are not worth the 15 jobs they'll eventually outsource. The 450 jobs that they continue to tout in this hearing, if they even get close to that many people, will be temporary and will disappear once construction is complete. Meanwhile, the potential damage to tenants, consumers, the air, land, and water will be permanent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I apologize, I read this name wrong. The next on my list is Sue Shink, and I will follow that by Madeline N. Is Sue Shink available?
Yes, thank you. This is State Senator Sue Shink. I represent the 14th State Senate District. 24 colleagues of mine and from the state legislature joined with me to ask the MPSC to support the request of the Attorney General for a contested proceeding because an ex parte proceeding does not protect the interests of the people of the state of Michigan and will not protect ratepayers from increased costs. With me, Senator Rosemary Bayer, Stephanie Chang, John Cherry, and Erica Geis. State Representatives Noah Arbit, Kelly Breen, Aaron Burns, Betsy Kofia, Jennifer Conlon, Kimberly Edwards, Morgan Foreman, Matt Polazar, Sharon McDonald, Mike McFall, Donovan McKinney, Reggie Miller, Veronica Pais, Lori Pohutsky, Natalie Price, Julie Rogers, Dylan Wiegela, Regina Weiss, Carrie Reingens, and Emily Diebendorf. I don't have time to read the whole letter, but basically the concern is that this is a historic precedent-setting request to approve a contract for 1.4 gigawatts of electricity, enough to power over 1 million homes, 25% of the electricity usage in our state. It's important to set a good precedent. It's also important that this not be done in secrecy. And I know that the Attorney General hasn't even been allowed to read the contract in its entirety. She represents the people of the state of Michigan. There's questions. What happens if there's a bankruptcy, if the customer disappears, if there isn't enough electricity to power everybody in the state? An ex parte hearing does not allow those issues to be explored adequately. I respect the commission greatly and request that you take our request seriously. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will move on to Madeline N, followed by Amy M. Is Madeline N available?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us the chance to share our thoughts on the data center with the commission. I think the bottom line that I'd like to share today is that our community deserves openness and transparency, especially from DTE, which you've heard from a number of folks tonight has been unreliable. We can't trust what they're telling us. We have no proof that they will do what they say and no way to hold them accountable, as someone earlier on the call said. And so I implore the commission to reject the ex parte request to hold a contested hearing. In no circumstances, especially with a project of this scale, should we be rushing through any sort of approvals. A project of this scale deserves prudent decision making, and I think that the community here has shared dozens of valid concerns that we would like you to take seriously and put back on the proposers of this data center. So thank you for your time. I really hope that you respect the needs of the community members. And again, not just the people who stand to make a few dollars off of this project, but the people who actually will be paying for this when AI bubble fails or when DTE inevitably drops the ball on this project overall. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. I will, Amy M. followed by Virginia. Is Amy M. available? You may be on mute.
Hi.
Okay. Hi, go ahead.
My name's Amy. I live a little bit north of Tecumseh, Michigan, which is in Lenawee County. I live in the country, and it's about 10 miles from where this data center is being built by Saline. I'm also an engineer that works in the tech industry in web hosting, and so I know something about data centers just from my job. I've actually heard a lot of engineers speaking up here, which is interesting, but I just wanted to speak up and voice my opposition to this data center and the possibility of others that may be built in Southeast Michigan. I understand the feeling that AI is the future and that somehow this data center will benefit Michigan, but I believe that's a false impression. Sadly, we're not going to be the next Silicon Valley, probably. The data center will likely bring very few jobs once the construction phase is complete, and it's not in any way going to bring that industry to Michigan. It will probably employ a few technicians just to keep things running, but it is probably relatively low paying in general. A lot of others have spoken about some of the drawbacks and risks of the data center for our communities, and I also share those concerns. I thank you, Sue Shink, for speaking up, and I wish that you represented my district on others that were speaking up in opposition to this. That's really all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I will move on to Virginia, followed by the initials RKM. Is Virginia available?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
Hi, hello, my name is Virginia and I'm a resident of Detroit, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Other people before me have already brought up protestations that I wanted to speak on. I am troubled with how this deal is being sped through. After all, if there's nothing to hide, why redact so much? It is short-sighted as well to focus solely on temporary jobs. This will damage our water systems, particularly our groundwater, which cannot be returned to a pristine state once it has been tainted. Fossil fuels will be burned to keep this data center running, which will contribute heavily to climate change while we are steadily moving toward a no turning back point in warming our planet. I'm troubled with how, in general, there is a movement away from the needs and wants of the people who live in the state toward the hyper-wealthy who live elsewhere, who own these data centers and will take the money they make away from the state. AI is already taking jobs away from people, and I personally have a stake in this as a writer, artist, and voice actor, as I've already felt the pinch of my livelihood being taken away. I also want to add that, as a DTE customer, I am extremely concerned that DTE already struggles to support the electrical draw of the people living in the state before adding this tremendous electrical draw to our system. DTE has subjected customers to days-long outages, often caused by storms that are a direct result of climate change. During the bitter cold of winter and the steaming heat of summer, people can lose their lives without electricity to heat or cool their homes. The only way to have the infrastructure needed to power AI and for the people is to pay for a lot of money to update this system. This is money that DTE will absolutely charge its customers without the option to opt out, customers who are already struggling to pay their bills and have no other power source to turn to instead. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right. I am going to move on to RKM, followed by Julie. Is RKM available?
Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rashad. I live in Ypsilanti Township. As others have said, there's going to be 2 data centers trying to be put into my neighborhood. I agree with many of them where it says that we should not have DTE be able to process a redacted agreement. It should be transparent, and we should be able to criticize this and hold hearings against it. I don't know how DET is considered a reliable electric provider. They are not. I have electricity go out in my neighborhood every year. It has damaged my appliances, damaged my infrastructure, my housing, electrical outlets and appliances. And so there's no way they can support about 2.6 gigawatts of electricity. If they try, then that means they're going to build new power plants, which would go around any agreements that might be made, which then would put cost on the rest of the Southeast Michigan, stating that it's for the whole system, which the only reason they created these power plants were to power up these gigawatt factories. I also work in the auto industry, and we have brownouts. Like we have to turn off the power in our labs, in our offices during the summer because everyone's ACs are running and restraining the system. So DTE's current electrical load is barely enough to handle Southeast Michigan. For them to say that they can actually provide power to these data centers is unrealistic, and they will be pushing these costs to us, to the residents. And so therefore, with everyone else, I think we should have full-on hearings and not allow DTE to force us to supply these data centers with electricity. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think I have only time for one more comment, and Julie is next on my list. Is Julie available? You may be on mute, Julie. I see you're not on mute, but I cannot hear you. Okay, I'm going to move to the next person on my list. I apologize, Julie, I cannot hear you. The next person on my list is Soren N. You will be my final comment for the day. Is Soren N available?
Yes, I am available.
All right.
I am a CS grad of MTU and a lifelong Michigan resident, and I just wanted to follow up on Chris's and Amy's statements, being as one of the people who would be the most likely to get long-term jobs related to a data center. Personally, as like a data scientist or data administration, I wanted to argue for more regulation, more oversight, and more public comment concerning this data center. I've heard many good arguments this evening about, LLCs, and if they went bankrupt, who would be taking on those costs, making sure they cover all the costs of their electricity instead of using clean energy credits. Who knows how exactly that works, with the risk of, them just planting trees that don't have an ecosystem to support them and making another carbon sink, more carbon emissions instead of a carbon sink. So in at least in minimum, no ex parte, we need more clarity on like who's going to take priority in terms of a brownout or a blackout, seeing more contents of the contract that we cannot see currently. And I do believe that's all. Everybody's covered so much this evening that's I'm also concerned about. And I guess I'll pass my time.
All right. Thank you very much. I think that's going to conclude our hearing tonight. I just want to thank everyone for their respectful comments and being respectful of each other's time. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of the commissioners that we appreciate your interest in this matter. There are a lot of people, however, who I know would still like to comment, but unfortunately we're out of time for tonight. There are a number of different ways that you can provide comments outside of this hearing. And I think we've put a slide up for you. Anyone who still wishes to provide comment, you may do it in any of the following ways. Number one, you may make comments during public comment portion of any regular commission meeting. These are held roughly every 2 to 3 weeks and can be attended in person at the offices in Lansing. And every one of them is also is also available to attend virtually through Microsoft Teams. There is a meeting link for those as well. So information on upcoming commission meetings is available at www.themidwesterner.news.